All right, we are live. Hello, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Guide to RIBA Membership Internationally webinar. So today's session will be specifically focused on chartered membership with respect to the Gulf backgrounds. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening and for your interest in the RIBA. We are very excited to learn about your interest and we will be on hand to support you through this process. Before we begin, I hope everyone is safe during this difficult time. So to give you a brief introduction on the RIBA in the Gulf, I am Martina Amato, the RIBA Business Development Manager for the Gulf. We also have Aldrin Sanchez, the RIBA Business Development Coordinator for the Gulf, who is kindly moderating the session backstage. It's our pleasure to announce that the RIBA have recently opened one of its first international offices in Sharjah in the UAE. I'm delighted to announce that the RIBA have chosen the GCC as one of its international locations to further serve our global members, which includes an audience spanning over 7 countries, including the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the Sultanate of Oman, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as Jordan. The RIBA's mission in the Gulf is to support the delivery of buildings and, most importantly, create a stronger community of architects in the region by providing them with personal as well as professional support. I would now like to introduce you to Mitch Steprans, who will conduct today's session. Mitch is the head of membership development at the RIBA. His job is to ensure that the RIBA's existing membership of over 40,000 people continues to grow and is fully supported. This includes developing communication campaigns and speaking directly to prospective members to guide them through the process, as he will be doing today. The Q&A bar alongside on the right side of your screen will be open throughout this session, so please feel free to submit all your questions at any time during today's session, and we will make sure we answer all of them. So we can switch over to Mitch now and begin today's session.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Mitch, as Martina mentioned, and I'm usually based in our London office in Portland Place, but I'm in my garden shed right now, as our offices still haven't reopened. But my job really is to help people join the RIBA and become members, whether they're in the UK or anywhere in the world. And I cover all kind of membership categories, and I work with a team to help people out with that. And so I'm really happy to be joining you today and guiding you through some of that as well. For those who don't know what the RIBA is, I mean, we're the Royal Institute of British Architecture. You might kind of wonder why we're not just in Britain, but actually we've kind of for a few decades really had quite an international presence, but we're really stepping that up recently, mostly because there's a lot of interest outside of the UK for people to become accredited with the RIBA and sign up to our standards. We're a membership body, which means that we are led by our members. We've got council and president, so everything that we do is led by our members and run by them. And really it's twofold, our mission. One is around promoting architecture, standards in architecture, the cultural aspects of architecture. So we've got huge collections, exhibitions going on all the time, a lineup of speakers that go out throughout the year. But alongside that, it's giving practical resources to architects so that they can do their job as well as they possibly can. We have various membership categories, starting from student membership all the way through to chartered membership, which is the one that I'll focus on today. And chartered membership is, we kind of call it the golden standard of architecture for most architects. It's the one that certainly in Britain, but also abroad, increasingly people want to reach. And that's two things really why they want to do that. The first is that it's a mark of standards. So every RIBA member who becomes elected as a chartered member, we know that they've got the academic study and the expertise and the experience that we want to see from a chartered member, which is why, as we get to it later on, it might seem a bit of an onerous process to become one, but that's because we need to ensure that we are only accepting members that meet those standards. And the second reason is that if you are a chartered member, you're basically signing up to our code of professional conduct from the RIBA, which means that other people in the profession and clients know that you've signed up to that, and that basically you're kind of committed to highest practical standards, ethics, and that really you are the best architects that they can employ or work with. So that's really what chartered membership means. Hopefully all of you are in the right session for chartered members. We are doing one tomorrow for affiliate members, and we've got other membership categories as well. So even if you're not, bear with us and we can talk it through, and we can ask questions later on. Become a member, I thought I would just share a page with you, which is just on our website, which outlines some of the benefits. And what we can do on there is, oh, sorry. Sorry, hopefully that works. What we'll do is we'll share a link to this page as well. So this outlines everything really specifically, but I thought I would just share some of the ones that I think probably are most meaningful to most people that I've spoken to, certainly outside of the UK. So the first one is the use of the RIBA letters. And that's one of the major things that people want to join for. And it sounds like a very simple thing, four letters that accompany your name, but really it's everything that those 4 letters represent, which is what I was speaking about standards and everything else. But chartered members are the only ones who can actually use those letters next to their names, and many definitely choose to do so on their business cards, email signatures, websites, all of that. But as well as that, there are a lot of really good practical tools. You get full access to the RIBA journal, so you get a print version sent to you, but also access to the online RIBA J, which is hugely valuable. Architectural tours, interviews with amazing architects, practical guidance. There's information from CPD providers and providers of everything from kind of services to products. Architectural news, so you're just up to date with everything that's going on in the world of architecture, and then some amazing features about really interesting subjects, everything from climate change to cladding and anything you can imagine, really. A couple of months ago, we really excitingly launched our online CPD platform called RIBA Academy, and this allows you to basically fulfill your continuing professional development requirements with the RIBA, and if you've got them with other organizations as well. So it's a learning platform. You can go on, you get a discounted or free content. So it's just a great way, again, of maintaining your qualifications, all the latest information. Again, this is member-led, so there's some information on there now, but it's just 2 months old. And what we're constantly doing is trying to go out to our members, see what content they want so that they can learn with us. You've also got access to a huge amount of online resources. So we've just recently paywalled a lot of content on architecture.com, our website, which means that only members can access it now. And that's everything from technical specifications, guidance on how to market your architectural practice, how to calculate fees, just a huge amount of resources which you can access online now only as a member. And I think one of the kind of huge things too is just an access to a network, and that works locally where you are as a city or as a region, but also a global network of architects. So now that we've got a permanent presence with Mithuna and Aldrin, it's great because they're doing so many amazing events. If you're not already kind of following what they're doing, please do. But again, having access to those things is just a huge, wonderful resource. But it's not just local, it is global. So, you know, if you want to reach out and find an architect somewhere else, we can help you do that. And it's all about sharing across the world what architects are doing. Events, again, a lot that will be happening more and more kind of physically and in location. But even before then, we're doing quite a lot of live streaming now from London. We're doing some from China this weekend even. So again, using our global network so that architects can learn from each other and access architects who are speaking who you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to see and speak to. And just another thing to mention too is we're a membership body, so as a member you get to vote on who becomes the RIBA president, who's representing you locally. So we've currently got presidential and council elections. You can see on our website, if you want to, what the kind of candidates for RIBA president want to see in their 2-year term. But again, that membership again is really crucial. All of our members dictate what the RIBA does for its members. So being part of that as a chartered member allows you to do that and participate in those ways as well. I'm just going to change where I am on this page, just to talk through the eligibility criteria, which I know can be very confusing and daunting, but I'll break it down for you. It's not as complicated as it looks, I promise. So there are some very straightforward ways where you can join. We call them the straightforward ways. One is if you've got an RIBA validated parts 1, 2, and 3, so bachelor's, master's, and post-qualification certificate. That could be from the UK, or it could be from one of our internationally validated schools. The other route is via the EU route. So while we're still in the EU route, that still qualifies you. So any EU country where your qualifications are in the EU directive and you've got access to the profession of architect in that EU country, you can join. You just need to provide us with a letter from the competent authority, so the Architectural Association of that country, and send us a CV. So very straightforward way to join. The other straightforward one is if you're a full architect member, so you can't be an associate member or international associate. It needs to be full membership of one of these 12 international institutes, so American Institute, Netherlands, the German, Hong Kong, Japan, New Zealand, Malaysia, Canada, Australia, Ireland, South Africa, or Singapore. So if you are a full member of one of those institutes already, you can join. We just need proof of your full membership. Now, if you haven't got any of these, you can still join as a chartered member. It's just that it's a slightly longer process because all of these routes that I've just mentioned, we know the standards of those institutes or those institutions where you're applying from. So that kind of quality control and standards we've already got. But if we don't, it doesn't mean that you haven't got those standards, of course. There are amazingly qualified, influential, wonderful architects who don't have those. And we want to make sure that you can be part of the RIBA as well. And the way to do that is via a process called MEAP, Membership Eligibility Assessment Panel. And basically, this is a way for us to look at your qualifications and your experience as an architect and make sure that it's at the same standard as other applicants. And basically, you're eligible as long as you've got 5 years of academic study anywhere in the world. So study in architecture, whether that's a 5-year bachelor's or bachelor's plus master's. If it's a 4-year bachelor's, do get in touch with us anyway, because we will look at that as well. We try to be as generous as possible in looking at these qualifications. If you've got 5 years of study and 5 years of practical experience as an architect, then you should be eligible to apply. And what you need to do, so it's 2 stages, and I'll talk you through the first stage of applying, and then what I'll do is I'll pass you over to my colleague Martina, who looks after the second stage. Stage 1, very straightforward. There's an online form here, and basically what you need to submit is your name, address, qualifications that you'd like, and then it's just these documents here. So one is a CV showing 5 years of practical experience, some photo ID, so a passport, ID card, driver's license, certified copy of your qualifications in architecture, so your diplomas, and also transcripts. Now, again, we know that in some universities this is harder to obtain than others. If you can't get your transcripts, please don't think that you definitely can't join. We just need to find another way of demonstrating that you've got 5 years of study in architecture. So there might be some other way that we can do that. But if you've got your transcripts, you just upload those. If you've got certification of registration or license to practice in the country, that's brilliant. We know it doesn't apply to all countries, so if you haven't got it, please don't worry. And then basically, it's just a matter of filling in this form. And one of the things, just to be very clear as well, is that this will entitle you to become a chartered member outside of the UK. It won't allow you to become a chartered member or a registered architect in the UK. That's a separate process with a separate organisation called the Architects Registration Board, which is separate to us, just in case there's anyone who's planning on moving here. That's a separate process. So you fill this in, we'll look over all of those documents, and if we see that everything is in order, we would take an administrative fee of £300 and basically move you over to stage 2, which Martina will talk to you about. Before I pass you over, I just wanted to mention, if there's anyone listening who's got 5 years of study, but not yet 5 years, which is called the MEAP Access course, and basically allow you to speed up that process a little bit. So if you have that, please let us know, and we can send you a link to the course, and you can enroll on that to speed up the process a little bit. So thank you very much for listening to me. I've got lots of questions and I'll stick around and I can answer loads. I'm sure there will be some, but in the meanwhile, I will pass you over to Martina.
Hi everyone, I'm Martina. Thank you, Mitch, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. So I'm a project coordinator in education at the RIBA, and I'm typically based in London, now based from home. And I manage the stage 2 submissions for the membership eligibility assessment panel, which, as Mitch has said, is short for MEAP. For those of you who don't know, MEAP is a panel of prominent academics and practitioners who meet every 2 months to assess the applications of international architects that do not hold RIBA recognized qualifications, but want to become RIBA chartered members, like yourselves, I hope. So stage 2 essentially begins after you've been checked by my colleagues in the membership development team and that you've paid the administration fee, which Mitch has talked about. And essentially, for the stage 2 application, we ask candidates to submit 5 projects of varying scale from either professional practice or academia. And these projects are to meet 11 general criteria points, which are derived from a European Union directive determining the core competencies of a number of professional groups, including those of architects. And these 11 points form the basis of many national and international validation systems, reviewing the standards for architectural education, including those operated by the RIBA. So in short, we use these 11 points to maintain a high standard for prospective international members. So what I thought I would do is just share with you the form and just take you through it and see if you have any questions after this. So I think the form's up. So basically, once you've passed, once you get moved to stage 2, I essentially share this form with you. So in the first section 1, you'll find quite important guidance here, and I recommend that you read these guidance points quite thoroughly. You'll also notice, which is kind of the key points and the key kind of sticking points of the application, which is these are the GC points, the general criteria points that I was mentioning to you earlier. So essentially, you as a professional in the field and being based internationally, these are the criteria points that your work needs to specifically meet. So as you move through the form, you've got the first section, which is very basic personal details. Here we're looking for a personal statement. So this is basically we're just asking you to write how the RIBA and how joining the RIBA will be beneficial to you from both a professional and a personal point of view. And as we move further down here, you'll see just a basic checklist. And here we're asking for 2 reference letters. And it's important to know that these reference letters are really key documents. We're going to be checking to make sure that your employer, or if you don't have access to an employer's, if you run your own practice, which is more than likely to be the case, we're looking for either a letter of reference from potentially a client. That could also work. So again, here we're slightly flexible, but we're really looking for someone who could vouch for the projects you've worked on. And then as you go down, you've got the declaration points. And this is really where you get into the meat of the application. So we're going to have, as I said, 5 projects to go through. Again, here you've got the project name, the date, and then here this could be a range of dates. So if the project was started and isn't completed yet, or it could be just the date the project was completed, the project location. This is for the brief description of the project. Here we're just looking for an overview of the concepts which are kind of manifested in the project. And then here, this is where people kind of struggle, applicants struggle the most, I would say. And I always need to kind of tell them to rewrite this area. But what I've done is I've just listed down a kind of a breakdown of how we like to see the descriptions of your role and responsibilities in relation to the criterias. So this is where you kind of tick off which criteria the project meets and exactly what it is that you did for as your tasks that meet this criteria. And it's not necessarily that about the project generally, it's really about your involvement in the project and you having accomplished these tasks. And it's also very important to note that it's also quite likely that a project would cover all 11 points, but we're looking to see these points distributed amongst the 5 projects. So we'd rather you focused on the project that is the best example of GC7, that represents GC7 in the best way, and focus on writing a description for that in this case. After the general criteria, you'll have spaces here where you can include images. So you've got 10 images that's possible for you to include. I would recommend submitting 10. And we're looking for, again here, a variety of images from a project. So that could be anything from technical drawings to sketches to kind of site maps, to photographs of the building and their construction, or completed photographs, renderings, all of that beautiful stuff. So as you go down, you'll see that you have to repeat the same thing for project 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then at the very end, we have this additional section, which is also quite important because this is where we get a sense of you as an applicant as a kind of, this is where we see your well-rounded qualities. And if you're involved in any academic work, this is where you can include that. You can also talk about any particular hobbies. If you're an avid photographer or a lover of you can include that here. We're just really trying to see that yes, you're an architect and you're a professional, but we want to see kind of well-rounded individual as part of the RIBA. So I think that's it for me. I hope you found that useful. I think I can come out of this somehow. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Great, thank you, Martina. I think we can open up our Q&A session at this time. So if anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to send them across now in the live event Q&A on the right side. Let's start with a couple of questions. So someone's mentioned that they've spent their whole career in construction as a design and technical manager, for a main contractor. They don't have any architectural design. Instead, they further develop the design for construction execution. Are they eligible for chartered membership at all?
Yeah, I'm afraid probably not. It is really an architectural sort of qualification or kind of accreditation, the RIBA Chartered Membership. We do have affiliate membership. It doesn't give you access to the RIBA letters, but it does give you access to online resources and events and that kind of, again, that local and global network. So that's usually where we would recommend somebody with your experience and kind of doing what you do, they apply for affiliate membership instead. So you can be part of the RIBA. But that RIBA Chartered Membership is very much reserved for architects doing kind of architecture, and I guess the pure sense, I'm afraid.
So we will actually be hosting the RIBA affiliate guidance tomorrow if you'd like to join us for that session. That session is focused on a lot of engineers and construction managers, so that might be of some use. We have another question regarding whether a participant can receive a case study for one of the submissions for guidance. Perhaps Martina could take this question.
I guess, sorry, I was just a case study. Well, I could provide very basic examples of the GC points, but apart from that, given that these applications are kind of contain sensitive information about projects, etc. I won't be able to share that, but I'm more than happy to review a first draft of an application once you get to stage 2, and I can provide you feedback, and you can resubmit and revisit your application in regards to after having received my comments. So I think that that's quite a useful kind of hand-holding that we offer as you move through the stage 2 process.
Thanks, Martina. Joby Thomas has asked, what is the MEAP access course? If you could share any information regarding that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a huge amount of information on it, if I'm completely honest. I refer people to them, but basically, I mean, what it's designed to do is just fast track. So I think it's something along kind of 4 kind of core structured kind of sessions with quite a lot of work in between, and it's really a lot around reviewing the practical experience that you've got currently and how you can sort of just kind of and think about those GCC points kind of to get you to the stage where you can just apply more quickly. So I think it takes roughly a year, is that right?
So interestingly, I've actually got an update regarding the MEAP access course. So considering the current situation we all are in with COVID, what the MEAP access course team has decided to do, they're actually hosting the MEAP access course digitally this year. So it will be available online, at participants' convenience to log in and do the session. So essentially, if you have 5 years of education in architecture plus another 2 years of professional experience, you're eligible to join the MEAP access course, and you can go through that route as opposed to waiting for another 5 years of professional experience as well. So another quick question, do the supporting documents need to pertain to design?
So I can answer that. They can relate to things that are slightly outside of your practice. If it's something that's related to design, like potentially furniture design or object design. But as I said, it's really kind of supplementary information about you. If, for example, you want to include more information about a project you did in academia, you could potentially do it there. Again, the 5 projects can either be from academia or practice, because some of the GC points relate to content that may be developed in academia. For example, the first 3 points are more targeted at that. And yeah, so.
Someone has a question regarding the referee letters. So someone says, I'm only able to obtain 1 reference letter from a previous employer. Would that be a problem at all?
I think if there's, so I don't know if this is because they've only worked for one other person, or if it's, or what it is exactly, but if they can potentially get a reference letter from a client, more of a kind of a letter that kind of vouches for this person's work, and yeah, or it can also be from someone in the field. For example, another quite like eminent architect. Again, this is always, it's always quite a contextual point, the reference letters. It's really important to kind of understand where this person stands in their career and what it is that they are having difficulties like accessing in the reference letter. And yeah, so I think it's a case-by-case basis. I can't say that, you know, we won't accept you because you only have one reference letter, but I think there are other ways that we can potentially think of somebody else who can who can vouch for you as an architect.
Someone has a question regarding whether every project needs to meet all criteria. I think this is related to stage 2 as well. Yeah, so that's absolutely not the case. Not what we're looking, although we understand that on a very large scale project, it is more than likely that you may tick all of 11 points. What we're more interested is seeing those 11 points distributed amongst the 5 projects. So that could typically mean that one project will highlight best 4 GC points or 3. And that we're really looking for, you would need to make a kind of assessment and critically analyze your work and see which GC point is, which project is best met for the GC point. Someone has a question regarding whether RIBA Chartered Membership is similar to the RIBA Part 3.
Yeah, I can take this one. So it's sort of the equivalent. So if somebody's got their kind of UK Parts 1, 2 and 3, they become a chartered member. They can't become a chartered member unless they've got their Part 3. So we look at that as the standard. So what the MEAP process is really to see that you're kind of the same standard as someone who's got their Part 3. It doesn't actually give you a Part 3 because it doesn't really exist outside of the UK as such, but it does mean somebody who's got their Part 3 and you know, MEAP, there's no difference whatsoever.
Someone has a question regarding whether participants could get a list of the GC points at all.
The GC points are available on the form, and they're also online on our Stage 2 MEAP webpage. So that's all broken down for you. You can have a look and see if you think your work can potentially meet these criteria points.
I think we've gone through the list of main questions. Does anyone have any further questions at all that we could answer? So someone states that they have more than 16 years of experience, some in design and at the last 8 years in supervision on projects, including revising the design and shop drawings and material. Are they eligible?
Yeah, it sounds like there's nothing to kind of from that would indicate that you shouldn't be eligible for it. It sounds like there's a huge breadth of experience. It doesn't all have to be kind of in the past 5 years. We're looking at career wide, the whole breadth of it. So I'd be surprised with 16 years of experience covering design and the supervision of products that you wouldn't be able to tick quite a lot of those boxes. But again, you know, if anyone's got kind of any doubts that they might not, we always ask them to look at those GC points, and then you can sort of see for yourself. You go, oh yeah, no, I've definitely got these ones. Or if you go, oh, I'm not sure about this one, then we can answer it before you've paid that £300. We can usually answer those questions for you. So it's always better, rather than thinking you're not eligible or not to ask, just ask. We're really happy to help, and we're not going to put you through unless we really think you've got a really good chance of getting there.
Sahar has mentioned that in their personal case, they have worked for property developers over the past decade as a senior design manager, whereby they have been shortlisted design consultants and managing stakeholders' procurement and design process. The question is whether the experience is relevant for those projects and what they could possibly be showing for the Stage 2.
So I think in this case, I wouldn't be able to say with just that information. I think this is why we ask for a CV, a kind of quite detailed CV at the very first stage, just so we can really get a sense of this person. Because if it's just a kind of coordinating role or project management, role that they've been in, they might have not had enough kind of design-led experience and, you know, handling like designing for structures and thinking about how architecture engages with the landscape and all of these kind of content that is really that drives architects as they design. So it's a bit difficult for me to say at this point, I'm afraid. So I think I would suggest getting in touch with us with a more detailed kind of CV, and we'd happily look through it.
Thanks, Martina. Someone's mentioned that they spent their whole career in construction as a design and technical manager for a main contractor. They don't really have architectural design. Instead, further develop design for construction execution. Are they eligible for chartered membership? They have 5 years registered architecture. Sorry, they have 5 years registered architecture experience, I assume, with 20 years of experience. They have already passed the first assessment stage.
Yeah, I mean, if you've passed the first stage of MEAP, it should be that we've looked at that and thought that you should be able to get through. But if you want to just maybe contact us afterwards and we can just double check that for you. Again, it's looking at those GC points, but it could be that looking at your CV, we did think, yes, you should be able to get through. Again, if you pass that first assessment stage, we do look at that quite closely and make sure that it looks like you can get through. So it could be that there's more to the project and everything that you've done than that initial paragraph indicated. Hopefully so. It'd be great to get you on board if we can.
Yeah, if you could actually just send an email either to Mitch, myself, or to Aldrin, we'd be happy to take it forward. We'd definitely like to check in on that. Another question we have is regarding annual or monthly fees associated with the chartered membership.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that in my initial thing. So it's after the £300 administrative fee, which is just a one-off. The yearly fee for membership is £347 a year for members based outside of the UK.
Thanks, Mitch. Someone has a question regarding the fact that they have been fully registered with SACAP. So that's the South African Cooperation of Architectural Profession for 6 years, but haven't written their PPE exam. Could they still use this in step 1 at all?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we wouldn't have information about the PPE exam, and I don't think there's a requirement really. We don't get into quite that level of detail when we look at it for stage 1, so I don't see that would be an issue at all in terms of getting past stage 1.
Great, thanks, Mitch. Someone stated that they worked as an architect for 7 years, but dealt mostly with interior projects. Are they eligible?
Again here, I think you'd have to see, you can look at the list of the GC points and see if you, from your own personal and professional experience, are able to meet these criteria. So it's hard for me to tell with that little information, but if you were to look at the GC points, which you can find online, we'll be able to find out. And also when we first look at a more detailed CV, as we kind of sift through the application, the very first stage, we'll be able to give you more information.
Another interesting question, actually. If at any stage 1 does not pass, are they allowed to resubmit, or is it a one-time chance?
Basically, for stage 2, it is possible that the work presented does not pass a panel. Once the panel reviews the work, they could potentially say that they'd like to see more of a specific type of work, or that some of your GC points weren't that strong. So that would either mean a couple more years of experience, or that could just mean reformulating the way that you present your work. And essentially, and again, this is a case by case, it goes by case by case, but we essentially give you at least two if you fail twice, essentially you're given a last third time. But I think at that point we will realize, and you will also realize, that maybe your work at this stage is not up to par, but that's not to say that in a few years' time that you might kind of elevate your work to be at the level that we're looking at.
So someone has a question regarding, if they get an RIBA Chartered membership, are they required to apply again to the ARB?
Yeah, so it's a completely separate process for the ARB. So this is MEAP and RIBA Chartered membership. That's just for the RIBA, but we're not the regulatory body for architects in the UK. We're a membership body. So if you did want to become an architect in the UK, you would need to register with them. That involves writing a prescribed examination for your Part 1 and your Part 2, and then completing a Part 3 course. That's ARB and RIBA validated. So it's quite a lengthy process if you are looking to move over here and you don't have UK or EU qualifications currently. Unfortunately, we can sort of lobby the government, but we don't have any control over that actually. It is a separate organisation.
Another question, with an RIBA Chartered membership, does this qualify participants for the opportunity to apply for ARB without a master's degree?
Yeah, I'm afraid there's no, they won't look at chartered membership at all. It's really it's very black and white. Prescribed exam Part 1, prescribed exam Part 2, and a Part 3 course. There's no other way around it.
A lighter question here, is the RIBJ a monthly magazine?
Yes, that's right. It's a monthly magazine. So there's a print copy which you can opt in to receive, or again, a lot of people now are just accessing it digitally, which is just as good depending on how you want to do it. So it's published from the RIBA, but it's got very much an international focus. Some really great kind of content, changes every month, quite a lot, but interviews, tours, again, really great kind of way of finding out about new materials, building materials. It has some building regulation stuff as well, which is probably more interesting for actual architects. I'm not one, I like the kind of pictures more than anything else, but there's something in there for everyone. And it is one of the most kind of valued, our members do say it's one of the most valued parts of being a member, is just that monthly way of keeping up really with what's going on when it's quite difficult to do so.
Thanks, Mitch. Someone's mentioned that they had their first degree, BSc in architectural engineer from the Jordanian University, and they've had 6 years experience in architectural design management and registered in Jordan and KSA as an architectural engineer. Recently, they've done their master's in architecture from an Australian school, which accredits which is accredited by the Australian Institute of Architects. They'd like to know if they're eligible for Part 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I mean, not all qualifications translate to a Part 2 or Part 3. Really, it's only if you're in the UK or a RIBA validated course, which I don't think either of those are. But it looks like you've definitely got the study and the practical experience to apply for MEAP, which would again give you the same membership category if you're based outside of the UK as someone who's completed their Part 3.
Do we have any other questions at all? I think we've gone through all of them. If you have any question, can you send it in now and we could just answer them straight away. Let's just give that a minute if that's okay, because it lags slightly. All right, I don't think we have any further questions coming in. Of course, if anyone has any questions, please do feel free to email the appropriate person. We have sent you a list of emails on the right side as well as an announcement. If we have no questions coming in, we could probably close today's session. Sorry, I'm just giving it another 30 seconds because I know questions lag and suddenly show up. Okay, I think we're okay. I think we can close today's session. So thank you very much, Mitch and Martina. I'm sure this session has been greatly useful to our hopefully future RIBA members. At this point of time, we will be closing today's session. So if you have any further questions at all, please do feel free to email the appropriate person we have listed alongside, and we'll be more than happy to guide you. This session will also be available to view at your convenience online on the RIBA website. So we will be hosting the RIBA affiliate membership tomorrow at the same time. If you would like to learn about the quickest route to join the RIBA, I suggest tuning into tomorrow's session, as the affiliate membership is in fact a one-step process. Thank you everyone. We hope to see you at our future events. Thank you.